and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for our final decisions video where we're going to go through all the final news and big questions ahead of the deadline. We're going to be talking double game weeks, we're going to be talking wildcards, we're going to be talking captaincy and so much more. So guys, if you enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get started. So going through the press conferences first of all, Timber is apparently very close to being available for Arsenal. He has been playing games with the under-21, so we could see him actually enter the Arsenal starting lineup before the end of the season. And there's no other injury concerns for Arsenal, so positive news there ahead of their fixture against Spurs. For Aston Villa, Moreno and Zaniolo are unavailable for this game week. They have been ruled out injured. However, Douglas Luiz is going to be a well-appreciated boost. He is returning following suspension. For Bournemouth, Kirkes, the suspension, the red card was appealed. Unfortunately, Bournemouth were unsuccessful with their appeal of the red card, so that is going to leave Kirkes unavailable until game week 38. Tavernier still out with a hamstring injury, and there's been no decision yet on who will be the starting goalkeeper for Bournemouth for the rest of the season. Will it be Travers? Will it be Neto? We're not exactly sure, so yeah, unfortunately for Neto owners, no clear decision on that one. For Brentford, Tony is hopeful of a return, and I really want to re-emphasize hopeful, because that's what the manager Thomas Frank wanted to emphasize as well. He's going to be assessed, but no guarantees on minutes for him this week either. Pretty easy sell if you still have him. Hickey's not expected to be back before the end of the season. His season is probably over now, and Morpay, he is ineligible to play his parent club Everton this game week. For Brighton, we didn't actually get a press conference this week, or certainly nothing that I could find, presumably because they only played last night. But Enciso was back on the bench for game week 34, so a return to the squad for him. And Verbruggen was actually benched in game week 34 as well. So I know it looked for a while like Verbruggen would be the starting goalkeeper for Brighton for the rest of the season, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. There's still going to be a little bit of rotation there, so maybe just avoid those Brighton goalkeepers. For Burnley, Foster and Muric are available after game week 34, and they're going to be fine. And for Alderkiel, Bayer, Koleosho, Ramsey and Redmond, they are still all out. For Chelsea, Palmer is back in full training following illness, so real positive news there. Hopefully FPL remove his flag very soon, because I'm sure that's going to confuse a lot of people. But Palmer is absolutely fine. He's been training. He is going to play. There's no doubts about Cole Palmer anymore ahead of the double game week. However, less positive news for Malo Gusto. He is undergoing a rehabilitation program, so presumably he is going to be unavailable. There were maybe some rumors that Gusto would be returning for the West Ham fixture, in fact, in game week 36. So, yeah, don't think Gusto is going to be a good pick for this game week despite the double. James and Nkunku back in partial training, but they're not going to be available quite yet. We could even see James compete with Gusto for minutes later on in the season as well. For Crystal Palace, Eze is questionable after picking up a knee injury. So if you do have him, if you picked him up for last game week, you could find that he is not available for this game week. It remains to be seen. There will be a late assessment on him. Elise, however, is fine. His minutes were just being managed in game week 34. It was all part of a plan to kind of bring him back into this Palace team, and he should be good to continue to get starts now. For Everton, Mikalenko is unlikely to play this game week due to an ankle injury. Calvert-Lewin is ill, but he should be available. He actually played through illness in game week 34, so yeah, he's going to be hopefully fine despite that illness. And Coleman is doubtful with a groin injury. For Fulham, Willian should be back following some muscle tightness, which means once again Fulham are back with a clean bill of health. Somebody recruit this medical team to the likes of Newcastle and Liverpool, because they need the Fulham medical team. They are keeping things very good at the moment. For Liverpool, speaking of Liverpool, Bradley and Jota, they're still going to be unavailable for this game week, so no return for them. Cody Gakpo is available again following the birth of his child, which allowed him personal leave for the midweek fixture against Everton for Liverpool. And for Luton, Kabore, he's out for the season. He's picked up a new injury. Unfortunately, more problems brewing at Luton Town. Ogbene and Adebayo still not ready to go, and there's no new returnees either. So bad news for Luton. Maybe a team to potentially target for the remainder of the season. For Man City, this is a tough one because the press conference was embargoed, so we don't actually have a full clear idea on what's going on. But from last night, Pep Guardiola did say about Halland that he feels better. I don't know. That's what Pep said. From what we know from rumours and inside sources in the club, we kind of know that Halland's injury is not significant. I still would say that he probably is going to be unavailable for the weekend. I still think he's got a chance of starting, but I would prepare for him to be either benched or out of the squad. But I would also prepare for Halland to be back very soon. If you're on a wild card, I think you probably just take Halland and maybe bench him for this game week, or just risk starting him if you want to. And after that, hopefully he should be back very soon. Worst case scenario, you're going to have to make a transfer, move him to Alvarez for the double game week in 37. I think Halland at this moment is a keep, a buy on a wild card, but if you don't have him and you are not on a wild card, you don't buy him right now, most likely. And if you don't have a wild card, you could consider transferring him out, but I don't think so. I think Halland is a keep at this moment. Don't think it's going to be a serious injury. But problems brewing for FPL managers as Ake, Stones and Walker are now back and available. If you're looking to pick a defender from Manchester City, we could have some big problems because, yeah, Ake competing with Guardiola. We've got Stones and Walker competing with the likes of Akanji and Diaz as well. So, yeah, that's going to be very problematic. It may be a case of us actually maybe trying to avoid the Man City defenders a little bit at the moment, given everyone is available. For Manchester United, Mount is back and available. Rashford and Kambwala presumably are unavailable following comments from Ten Hag, and Shaw and Martinez are targeting a return before the end of the season. So just a quick note, if you are going for Dalot on a wild card, for example, we could see Dalot actually competing with Shaw for the end of the season, maybe the last game week, maybe even in game week 37 during that double as well. So just be aware of that if you are going for Dalot. With Martinez, I think there's less risk of competition with Maguire because there's no one else available anyway. So yeah, I think Maguire's probably good to go, but yeah, Dalot, just be aware of that if you're going for Dalot. And on Dubravka as well, got to be aware that Pope is now back in training and could feature for the club very, very soon. Callum Wilson also made a bench appearance in the midweek, which means that Isak's minutes are maybe slightly reduced, and Trippier, he's still not available. Maybe Livramento, maybe coming back from an injury of his own, could be taking that place in the fullback position ahead of Trippier. Now for Nottingham Forest, no real team news. They just spoke about the refereeing stuff. I watched the whole press conference. I was like, when are you going to give us the team news? But it just didn't happen. So presumably, Awani and Bolly are still out. I don't think it's worth touching on too many other Forest assets, to be fair. For Sheffield United, McBurney has picked up an injury that rules him out for the rest of this season. Bogle, however, should be fine to play. McAtee has also picked up a groin injury, which could rule him out. He's going to have a late assessment. For Spurs, Pedro Porro back in full training. Probably a lock if you are on a wild card right now. That's the vote of confidence you guys probably needed for Pedro Porro in order to pick him in your FPL team. Back in full training. Richarlison too. He is also going to be available for game week 35, which maybe casts into doubt picks like Johnson. But is Richarlison going to be nailed on enough? Just returning from injury, I'm not 100% sure. So I'll be a little bit worried about rotation among those Spurs forwards. It's really just Son is the only nailed on one there, with maybe Maddison there as well, as getting decent minutes. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to go there or not. Udogie has been ruled out for the rest of the season. Unfortunately, you guys probably knew about that one already, so he is a sell if you do have him. For West Ham, Bowen has a good chance of returning, but still no guarantee that he will be available this weekend. Aguerd is unavailable, and Mavropanos has a chance to play. He has a chance to play. We're not 100% sure on that one either. More late assessments coming around the grounds. For Wolves, Dawson and Chiwome, they are out for this season, unfortunately, and Neto and Bellegarde are still unavailable. Totti is a returnee, but it still looks like Wolves are going to be lacking a bit of firepower in their attack, so maybe clean sheets are on the cards for anyone facing Wolves going forward. We've seen a couple of teams get clean sheets against Wolves over the double game week. Maybe that could happen again. Now, before we go on to talk about some of the other topics today, I wanted to give another shout out to Lazy FPL. You guys know I love Lazy FPL and their fantastic free newsletters that they drop in your email inboxes every day before deadline. They've already dropped theirs today. And in that article, well, they've actually revealed my latest wildcard draft. So I have made a few changes to my wildcard and kind of working with in collaboration with Lazy FPL. And I've posted my updated wildcard draft on their newsletter. You you can go check it out. You don't have to get it through your inbox. You can just go to the website and look at the team yourself immediately, as well as the rest of the article. I've left a link at the top of the description or in the pinned comments if you guys want to go check out my updated wildcard draft and all of the other great tips that Lazy FPL provide. They also are amazing for Team League. So if you want to get that early Team League information about what players are going to be starting or benched, Lazy FPL, honestly, I love these guys. You guys know that by now. We only ever shout out and promote things we absolutely love on this channel. So yeah, just pleased to be working with them and very grateful that they allowed me to feature my updated wildcard team on their articles, to be honest. So yeah, big shout out to them. Go check them out. Okay, let's talk about double game weeks right now. We've got 2 teams that have 2 double game weeks remaining, and we've got 4 teams who only double in game week 37. And these are the teams we're probably going to be mostly targeting with our transfers this season, just to play the fixtures and try and get the most out of the 4 game weeks that remain. For Chelsea and Spurs, you get 6 games in 4 game weeks, so you can even kind of stretch out your season a little bit longer by picking up those players with the extra fixtures. Chelsea definitely have the more favourable fixtures than Spurs, but Spurs do have some possible opportunities to return, and definitely Sheffield United in game week 38 for Spurs is going to be very nice indeed as well. But certainly Chelsea, I like the look of these fixtures a lot, and we would quite possibly be looking to triple up on a team like Chelsea. We're going to have a look at Chelsea and Spurs assets in just one moment, but I just want to go through some of the other teams with doubles in 37. Brighton, for example, I think all of their fixtures are kind of mid. There's no real easy fixtures in this run, so maybe there might be some trinkets in there. Lewis Dunk, Van Hecke, if you want to go cheap there. João Pedro, cheap forward. But yeah, nothing massively standing out from the Brighton team. Man City, another team with phenomenal fixtures between now and the end of the season. Forest up next, followed by a depleted Wolves, and then the double game week against Fulham and Spurs. I think these fixtures, particularly in the double game week, probably favour attackers, but game weeks 35 and 36, the non-doubles probably favour defenders a little bit more, with clean sheets on the card. So it's up to you where you're going to go with those players. Again, we're going to have a look at some other assets that you can go for this week who do double in 37. Manchester United, I think this fixture against Burnley is pretty decent, but after that, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, and an improving Newcastle team doesn't thrill me, doesn't fill me with joy. There's definitely going to be some opportunities for Manchester United players, but I don't think they're a team that you necessarily need to go all in on in the same ways you might do with Chelsea, Man City, and of course, Newcastle, who have great fixtures through to the end of the season. Sheffield United coming up next, then Burnley, then a double game week against Brighton and Manchester United. This is certainly a team that we need to be going all in on with our FPL assets. We know the players in form: Isak, Gordon, and the defenders we can go for: Fabian Schär and Dan Burn. Pick 3 of those players if you're on a wild card and roll with them. You've got to have 3 of those players, and even if you're not on a wild card, you probably need to attempt to get that triple up on Newcastle. In fact, against Sheffield United this week, you could even argue that that's a better opportunity than the doubles that Chelsea and Spurs have. So big team to target, big team to triple up on. Let's go through and have a look at some of these teams and what kind of assets we might want to go for. So I think Chelsea is actually pretty straightforward now. Now we've got the kind of news that Gusto is probably going to be unavailable for the entirety of this double game week. Well, it's probably pretty obvious which players we go for. So first of all, Cole Palmer, he is a lock. He is essential. You absolutely have to get him in your team if you don't have him already. And he's probably going to be one of the top captain picks for this game week as well, if not the top captain pick. Nicholas Jackson offers a good opportunity in the attacker position because in terms of forwards, there is not really too many options for players who do have double game weeks. There's not too much going on there. So if you do want to go for a forward, want to maximize your fixtures, Nicholas Jackson is a high risk, high reward kind of player. Now I know people are kind of a little bit off on Jackson at the moment. He does miss chances, but at the end of the day, he's scored 10 goals this season already. He's got a decent amount of assists as well. Given enough game time, and he will get game time, should be nailed on at least for now. I think there's definitely opportunity here. And I think Aston Villa and Spurs, I hate these fixtures if for a defender, but for an attacker, I think there is going to be plenty of opportunity here, particularly if you're looking to counter-attack, which is something that Jackson specialises in, as long as he can start finishing those chances. And given the amount of opportunities he has, he will finish some of those chances. He has finished some of those chances. It's not like we're talking about a player who literally never scores. He's got 10 goals this season. That's actually not too bad. And when combining with Cole Palmer, you're going to get opportunities to get more goals than, the average forward, I guess. At least opportunities, right? That's what we're talking about. And Petrovic is probably probably the only defensive Chelsea asset worth going for. Probably going to clock up some save points against the likes of Aston Villa and Spurs, although clean sheets not super likely. Looking at some differentials, Gusto probably not going to go there due to that injury. Disasi is the only other Chelsea defender I can really think of, but he's not nailed on and he's not particularly cheap either. Raheem Sterling could be an interesting opportunity. Still not 100% convinced by him and his game time at the moment. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Chelsea. So I think it's pretty straightforward. If you're going for 3 Chelsea players, Palmer, Jackson and Petrovic are probably in that order as well. Palmer a lock, maybe pick one of Jackson and Petrovic if you want to. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, Spurs have the worst fixtures of the 2 teams, but they probably have more options there. So Son, first of all, a lock. Gotta have him in your team. Again, another potential captain option for this double game week. After that, Pedro Porro being now declared fit and available, I think he's obviously a very, very nice pick to go for as well. And after that, you're possibly looking at going for the likes of Johnson, bit of rotation risk with Richarlison back, and Vicario. Never going to keep clean sheets. It never really happens for Spurs, but he may be able to get some save points. The issue with Vicario is he is quite expensive, and I'm not sure he actually provides terrific value for money. But if you want to triple up on Spurs and you don't fancy a Brennan Johnson, for example, because those midfield slots are so valuable at the moment, then maybe you could go for Vicario instead. In terms of differential, Davies, very cheap defender, probably going to fill in at left back with a doggy out. Romero and Van der Ven offer a little bit of aerial threat as well. Could go there. For midfielders, Maddison, Richarlison, possibly you could go for these players. Maddison obviously super nailed on, but not great underlying numbers at the moment. Richarlison is obviously an option as well, but super risky, just returning from injury. And like we mentioned before, there's not too much going on in the forward position, so maybe that's worth taking a punt on Timo Werner. If you can, if you can manage a Jackson, then maybe you can manage a Timo Werner as well, a high volume chance player who doesn't necessarily finish off all of those chances. And I've whipped you up a little mini tier list for the other top transfer targets of this game week, just so we can go through some of these as well. I think out of these players who don't double this game week, I would say Isak is probably the #1 transfer target for you guys. If you need to sell a Darwin or a Solanke in order to get Isak into your team, I would probably just go ahead and do it, even for a hit. If you are not on a wild card this week, I think a lot of people are going to be on hits this week, to be fair. You know, it's got to be done. And if you are free hitted last game week, you gained all of those points, why not reward yourself by setting up your team for the remainder of the season? After that, I would say, yeah, definitely the other Newcastle players are a priority. You probably just pick Isak and then 2 out of Gordon, Cher and Burn. And the reason why you would go for Isak as a lock is because there's not too many forward options, and the reason why Gordon is a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more kind of, questionable, you don't have to go for him, is because there are genuinely a lot of other great midfield options right now. So for that reason, I would put Gordon ahead of some of these other players, but he's not Isak category because there's more competition for midfielders in our FPL teams. But yeah, 3 of Isak, Gordon, Cher and Burn. That's all I got to say on that one. Foden, also a great transfer. I don't know if he's 100% nailed on for this Forest game, coming quite soon after the Brighton game, but he should play. In theory, he should play, the vast majority of remaining games. I'd say he's a reasonably high priority transfer to get into your team this week, but I would say Newcastle plays slightly ahead, in my opinion, and maybe you can go for a Foden next week instead. Possibility. In terms of good transfers, we've got Fernandes and De Bruyne. Pick one of those 2 players. I think you're good to go if you've got one of those. And the likes of Guardiola, Dalot, Garnacho, Watkins, I think they are optional. Guardiola is a player who, may be a little rotation risk due to all of these Man City defenders coming back. Ake in particular is going to cause some problems. Dalot, do we love the Manchester United defence? I'm not sure what we do, but he's definitely an opportunity and an option for you guys. Garnacho, wouldn't put him in the same category as Bruno Fernandes, but a nice cheap option as well. And Ollie Watkins, with no double game weeks between now and the end of the season, not particularly good fixtures either for the lad. I think he is an optional pick. I would try and prioritise an Isak over a Watkins if I'm buying a new forward this week. And honestly, I'd prioritise a Jackson over a Watkins as well. But I know that's going to be controversial. I just think Jackson can score more points in 6 games than Watkins can score in 4 games. So yeah, we'll leave that one there. For our captain picks this week, I think it's very obvious there's two main contenders, and their names are Cole Palmer and Heung-min Son. One of these players is probably going to be your captain ahead of the double game week. Out of all of the double game week assets, these two stand out high above all of the rest. So go for them, captain them. Palmer, I think is the first choice, most likely. But Son, don't underestimate the opportunities he will have against the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea. Son is a specialist in playing against difficult teams, so do not let the fixtures put you off too much. And if you're brave, maybe you could go for a Newcastle attacker instead. Isak on penalties against Sheffield United, who just concede so many chances. They do look really, really finished for this season. And Gordon at home is always an absolute beast as well. So maybe you can take advantage of his great home form. But at the end of the day, it's probably the double game week players we're going to be most focused on. For me, Cole Palmer is the guy, but do not discount Heung-min Son. I think he could be a great option as well. And finally, a goalkeeper start order list, I suppose. And we can do this fairly quickly because I think in general, this week, pretty much all goalkeepers are fine to start. They all look pretty good. Most teams have good fixtures, and those without their most amazing fixtures often have double game weeks. So, you know, Petrovic and Vicario have kind of slightly difficult fixtures there, but they have double game weeks. Raya, he's got a difficult game week, but he is playing for Arsenal, and they always keep clean sheets, and there's even a good chance of that against Spurs. And in general, yeah, I just think you can play pretty much anyone this week. Go for it, guys. They're all great, other than, like, maybe Areola against Liverpool, who you probably wouldn't want to back at this moment, given West Ham's form and, you know, defensive injuries, I suppose, that they've got going on at the moment. Of course, if you want a full tier list, bench list, I suppose, then we'll be doing one on every deadline stream. So tune into the deadline streams, and we'll be going through all positions and putting them in an order just like this. Hope to see a few of you guys there. And that is going to be it for today's video, guys. If you did enjoy this, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here as well. Feel free to check out another video if you'd like to, and don't forget to check out the Lazy FPL newsletter to see my updated wildcard draft. Link in the description or in the pinned comment. Yeah, go have a look. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates.